What's going on, guys? Dave with Expedition Georgia. Today we're going to install a new roof rack on this 5th gen 4runner. So we've already removed the 3/4 front runner rack and we're going to install the Ecotechne roof rack. We chose this rack because we're converting from the 3/4 to the full length. This one allows for the sunroof. It's also low profile, very slim, and no one else has it. It's very rare to see out here on the East Coast. So the rack comes in multiple pieces. You have your side rails, your front and rear, your cross members. You have one wide one and two skinny ones, and all of your mounting hardware and brackets. First step in the installation is mounting the mounting brackets. You'll need the mounting bolt that's provided along with the washer and an M6 hex screw. I prefer this style so you can put some torque sideways on it. When installing this correctly, make sure you note that the 4R will be upside down so you aren't installing it backwards. And you're going to take these threads and thread them into the pre-threaded holes in top of your roof rack. The next step is to take the next step is to attach the side rails to the brackets we have already installed. The cool thing about this rack is the side rails are actually sitting in the drip rail without any bolts attached, so it's easy to place it and prep it for bolts being installed. Also, because of that, there's no gaps and it sits perfectly flush on the roof. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take the bolts, washers, and nut supplied and insert them into the holes, like so. One washer on each side. One thing we found is the front is a lot more of a pain to tighten the bolts because there's a lot less room to get a wrench. So we had to put the 14mm socket on the outside and the wrench on the inside. And on the rear, we'll do the opposite. We'll put the socket on the inside and the wrench on the outside. One thing I noticed with the wrench, you'll have to go in this way as opposed to this way because there's no room. So you put the wrench on the bolt that way, or put the wrench on the nut that way. And as you go further in, you're gonna have to keep inching the wrench back because it keeps hitting the end. So it's gonna take a little time, a little patience to do this part, but it's not that bad once you get to it. Because it tapers down at the front as opposed to the rear, there's no space to put the socket on this side. That's why we have to use the wrench this way, and you can't put the wrench this way because, again, there's no space. Also, make sure you have all 4 bolts inserted before you tighten any of them down. We noticed when we tighten the front down, the rear wouldn't fit, so we loosened them back up and we're able to slide them in because there's a little more play within the side rail. The rear is much easier than the front because they allowed for a lot more space to tighten the bolts. So the next step is we're going to put the front piece on and we're going to work our way all the way to the back. So with the front piece, we're going to bolt it up here, hand tighten it, and then we're going to put a weather stripping underneath the front to prevent wind noise. cross members front, back, and middle, mount from the bottom. So what you have to do is put a washer and a bolt through the top, hold it up, put a washer and a bolt and a nut through the bottom, and then tighten it down. It's kind of a pain to get started, but once we get the cross members in the back, should be much easier than the front. So after about an hour, we finally got the front piece and the rubber stripping on there. I would recommend doing the front bolts first so you can line it up. The front bolts will line up the whole front piece, and then you tighten the front, tighten the rear, and then cut the weather stripping to length. And it's not going to be perfect. These things are a little bit iffy, but it works really well. It looks pretty good, and we're happy with it. The weather stripping isn't a part of the kit. It's something we added to hopefully reduce wind noise. All we did was press fit it up here and then cut it to length here. As you can see, the bolts aren't very pretty to look at. Also, we noticed that the sizes aren't exact. So we have metric and SAE bolt heads. So I would recommend, if you want some nice looking bolts, go out and buy some black bolts that are all the same size. We're just gonna hit these with some flat black or plasti dip. Another thing we found out, we're short on bolts. They didn't send us enough. So we're not gonna have enough bolts today to do both cross members, the big piece, and the rear. So we're just gonna do one cross member, the big piece, the rear, and later we'll add that other piece back in. So we decided to work front to rear. So the next piece we're gonna install is the skinny cross member right behind the sunroof. We're gonna do the wider cross member behind that, and then we're gonna do the rear piece. We also decided to put the nice looking hex bolts on the front and the rear because you'll be able to see those, and the regular bolts in the middle. We decided to go ahead and install the second skinny cross member using just 2 bolts at both corners. We figured we would probably lose them later, so we went ahead and installed them, and we'll just go pick up some bolts. We also laid down a blanket and positioned the Fat Boy where we can get it ready to install with just bolts and nuts, and then we'll put the rear on last. I really like the openness this has and the universality. Having installed a lot of rooftop tents and other accessories on all the different racks out there, I really like the versatility of this rack with its open concept, and you can really do what you want with it. I just used a realtor term right there. There's even an integrated section up front for a light bar and slots so you can run wires with ease. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to install the rear crossbar. So here it is, the Ecotechne, Ecotechne full-length roof rack. Looks great. All we have left to do is plasti dip the bolt and it'll be good to go. So I'll get out of the way and you guys can take a look at it.